All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, I'm putting on my leadership coach hat to break down a pretty fascinating case study, and this one comes straight from the ancient text of the Bhagavad Gita. Have you ever wondered why some leaders, the ones who seem to have absolutely every advantage, all the wealth, all the resources, why they just completely fall apart under pressure? Well, chapter 1, verse 3 of this text brilliantly proves that having all the resources in the world actually means absolutely nothing if your mindset is corrupted from the inside out.
I want you to imagine holding the ultimate advantage. You've got the numbers, you've got the talent, the capital, the whole shebang. That is exactly the situation for the Kaurava leader, Duryodhana. He holds this overwhelming structural advantage over his rivals, the Pandavas. And yet, standing right on the brink of this massive conflict, the guy is sweating bullets. He is completely paranoid. So how does a leader with literally every advantage end up so terrified? To figure that out, we really have to examine the sheer scale of his empire.
Section 1. The illusion of external power. To really wrap our heads around Duryodhana's paranoia, we first have to grasp the massive scale of his resources. We are not just talking about a slight competitive edge here. We're talking about historical, overwhelming superiority. His Kaurava forces commanded 11 full battalions, which are called aksohinis in the text. The opposition, the Pandavas, they had a mere 7. In any strategic analysis, an 11-7 advantage is absolutely huge. But to really get why his fear makes zero logical sense, we need to understand what actually makes up just one of these battalions.
Because the scale here is literally staggering. To put this into perspective, a single Aksohini consists of 21,870 chariots, another 21,870 elephants, over 65,000 horses, and nearly 110,000 foot soldiers. We're not talking about a small troop. This is a moving city of military might. And every single unit is commanded by a Maharatha, which is the absolute highest title you can bestow on a warrior.
And get this, Duryodhana has 11 of these massive units. 11! Plus, he's got legendary stalwarts like Vrishma and Dronacarya on his payroll. By every single external metric of success, the guy should be sleeping soundly. But instead, he's completely consumed by insecurity. He is looking out at this massive ocean of his own power, and he feels like he's drowning. Now, as a coach, when I see this kind of behavior, I know right away the problem isn't the balance sheet. It's the leader's internal state.
Section 2. A leader torn by paranoia.
So why exactly is a leader with this much external power falling apart? Well, you have to look really closely at how he views the people around him. You can actually see his psychological breakdown right there in his language. When addressing his mentor, he distantly refers to the opposition as Pandu's sons and Drupada's son. Now, these aren't strangers. These are his own brothers, his cousins, his brother-in-law. By using these super formal, distant names, he's deliberately pushing away his own blood. He's totally isolating himself in his own mind.
And the source text reveals exactly what caused this tragic estrangement. It was selfishness, jealousy, and bitterness. This toxic triad just tore his family apart. Look, as a leader, when you operate entirely from a place of jealousy, you invariably end up bitter and completely isolated. Duryodhana might have tens of thousands of elephants, but he doesn't have a single genuine connection because his own toxicity has pushed absolutely everyone away.
Section 3. Dronacarya, the conflicted mentor.
To really see this leadership failure in action, we just have to look at his relationship with Dronacarya. Now, Dronacarya was a revered guru. He actually taught archery to both sides, but he loyally joined the Kauravas out of duty to the state. So how does Duryodhana treat this incredibly loyal mentor? Well, he says to him, "Behold this powerful army of Pandu's sons, led by Drupada's son, your wise disciple." Now that is not a strategic briefing. That is a direct jab. He's sarcastically pointing out that the enemy commander was Drona's own student, which just reveals this absolute lack of respect.
He's completely paranoid that Drona trained the enemy team a little too well. He actually resents his mentor's incredible skills. It brilliantly illustrates how inner bitterness makes a toxic leader doubt even their most loyal, capable stalwarts. Actually, my advice to any leader right now, if you're walking around insecure and carrying a ton of guilt, you're always going to view the competence of your own team as a threat rather than a massive asset.
Section 4. The cost of internal guilt.
And this brings us to the real root of the rot. On one side, Duryodhana has this unmatched external power, immense wealth, those 11 staggering battalions. But on the other side, his internal reality is nothing but fear, guilt, and paranoia. The contrast is just incredibly stark, and it proves that those with the most power are very often the most insecure. External metrics of success simply cannot fix an internal psychological fracture.
The source text makes a profound psychological realization right here. True insecurity isn't about lacking resources or capital or battalions. Insecurity is the direct consequence of violating your own moral conscience. It's the inescapable heavy weight of guilt from knowing you've done wrong.
And this is exactly why Duryodhana is so afraid. He isn't paralyzed because he lacks chariots. He's paralyzed because he has committed atrocious, completely unjust acts against his own kin. His guilt is just eating him alive. When you cheat, lie, or abuse others to reach the top, the anxiety of your own actions follows you right into the executive suite.
Section 5. Finding true inner security. So how do we actually find true inner security? Well, as an effective leader, you have to understand that no amount of external fortification can shield you from a guilty mind. But there's a really beautiful, liberating flip side to this coin. A person with absolutely nothing material to their name, no battalions, no massive empire, can feel completely 100% secure. Why? Because their conscience is clear. True security isn't something you build around yourself, it's something you cultivate within yourself, through right action.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought to take away from this explainer. You can spend your entire life accumulating wealth, crushing the competition, and commanding the greatest resources on earth. But if you abandon your morals and act viciously along the way, can you actually survive your own conscience? Really think about that the next time you're faced with a tough leadership decision. Thanks for joining me.